Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually we are sprinting through topics, tech, history, science, trying to get to the bottom of things as fast as possible. But today, we are going to change the pace.
We're slowing it down.
We are slowing down, we are quieting the noise, we are taking a stack of notes, some open Bibles, and a very specific analysis of a story that is only 8 verses long.
It's a short story, but it's heavy.
Yeah.
It carries a lot of weight.
It really does. We are looking at the parable of the persistent widow from Luke chapter 18. And I want to set the stage right away. This isn't just a clever little illustration. This is a lifeline. We are talking about the kind of grit it takes to keep believing when the sky is silent.
Which is something every single believer faces. I don't care how seasoned you are. There is that moment, maybe it's at 2 in the morning, maybe it's after a doctor's appointment, where you feel the weariness of the long night.
Right.
You feel like justice or, the answer you need is a million miles away.
And the temptation in that moment is very specific. It's not necessarily to stop believing in God's existence. It's to stop talking to him, to faint, to lose heart. So our mission today is to walk through this story of a powerless widow and a corrupt judge, and to really understand what we're calling a hard kind of hope.
A hope that preys on and doesn't faint.
Exactly. Now, one thing that stands out immediately in Luke 18 is the clarity of purpose. Often with parables, Jesus tells the story, and then the disciples have to pull him aside later and ask, okay, Lord, what was that about? Was the seed the word, or was it the people? It's a riddle.
Right. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. It implies you have to do some digging.
But here, Luke acts almost like a spoiler. He tells us the point before Jesus even opens his mouth. Verse 1. Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up.
It's unusual, isn't it? It's pastoral. It's like Luke is reaching out in the text, grabbing you by the shoulders and saying, listen, don't get lost in the details yet. The point of this is survival.
Yes.
The point is endurance.
But to understand why that instruction is so vital, why we need a specific command to not give up, we have to look at the context. We can't just parachute into chapter 18. We have to look at what was happening in the room, so to speak, immediately before this.
Context is everything here. If you look at the end of Luke 17, Jesus has just finished a harrowing description of the days of the Son of Man. He's talking about the future. He's talking about judgment. And he compares it to 2 specific historical periods, the days of Noah and the days of Lot.
Now, when we think of the days of Noah, we usually think of wickedness, violence, the world gone bad.
And that's true, but that's not what Jesus highlights. This is the scary part. He doesn't focus on the murders or the idolatry. He focuses on the normalcy.
The normalcy.
Yes. He says people were eating, drinking, marrying, being given in marriage, buying and selling, planting and building.
That sounds like today. That sounds like a Tuesday.
Exactly. He's painting a picture of a society that is completely absorbed in the horizontal. They are humming along. The stock market is open, the weddings are planned, the construction crews are pouring concrete. It's the rhythm of life.
And that rhythm can be dangerous.
It's terrifying because that rhythm acts as an anesthetic. It numbs people to the spiritual reality.
So they were so busy with life that they didn't see the death approaching.
They were oblivious. Jesus says they didn't know until the flood came and took them all away, or in Lot's case, until fire rained down from heaven. He is describing a world that is completely insulated from God, completely unaware of the precipice it's standing on.
And that creates a specific kind of pressure for the believer living in that world, doesn't it? Because if you are the only one looking at the sky and everyone else is just buying and selling, you start to feel crazy.
You feel isolated.
Yeah.
And you feel the delay. You think, Lord, you said judgment was coming. You said the kingdom was coming. But look around. The sun came up. The shops are open. The wicked are doing great. Where are you?
It's the pressure of the long delay.
It's an atmosphere of pressure, delay, and the specific temptation to lose heart, because the normalcy of the world makes your faith look ridiculous.
And it is into that atmosphere, that high-stakes pressure cooker context that Jesus drops this story.
Right. It's a rescue mission.
So he's giving us a tool for the days of Noah. He's saying, when the world looks like this, here is how you survive. Let's meet the characters. It's a simple cast, 2 people, a judge and a widow. Let's start with the judge.
The judge is a piece of work.
He really is. Now, I want to ask about the expectations here. In our modern world, we are, let's be honest, cynical about politicians and judges. But in ancient Israel, what was the expectation? What was a judge supposed to be?
This is crucial. In the Jewish mind, a judge wasn't just a bureaucrat. He was a theological figure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to Deuteronomy 16, verses 18 to 20, the mandate for judges is incredibly high.
Oh, yeah.
They were charged to fear God, to love the truth,
Yeah.
and specifically to protect the weak.
They're supposed to be the safety net.
Right. Psalm 68 calls God a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows. So a human judge was supposed to be a reflection of God's character on earth. When a widow walked into a courtroom, she was supposed to see someone who represented God's care for her.
But Jesus introduces this character, and he is the exact opposite. He is a caricature of corruption.
It's a stark picture. Jesus describes him as a man who neither feared God nor cared what people thought.
That's a double insulation.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
Think about why people do good things. Usually it's one of two reasons. Either you have a conscience, you fear God, you want to do what's right morally,
Sure.
or you have a reputation to maintain. You care what people think, you don't want to be shamed in the newspaper.
You don't want the bad Yelp review.
Exactly. Social pressure keeps a lot of people in line. But this man, he has no conscience toward God, and he has no shame toward man. He is completely hardened. He is insulated by his power.
He doesn't care about righteousness, and he doesn't care about public opinion.
Not at all.
He is a man who cannot be reached.
Yeah.
You can't appeal to his heart, and you can't appeal to his vanity. Which makes the situation for our second character, the widow, absolutely desperate.
Desperate is the word.
Let's unpack the widow in the first century. Again, modern listeners might hear widow and think of an older woman, perhaps grieving, living on a pension. It's sad, but it's not necessarily life-threatening. But in the biblical context, it was a different category of vulnerability, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a form of social death. In that patriarchal society, a woman's identity, her protection, and her economic standing were almost entirely wrapped up in the men in her life.
So her father, then her husband.
Exactly. First her father, then her husband. So when the husband dies...
Wall of protection collapses.
Completely.
Okay.
If she didn't have a grown son to step in, she was completely exposed. She had no legal standing to bring a case easily. She was often illiterate. She had no income stream.
And this made them targets.
Absolutely. The scriptures are full of warnings about people who devour widows' houses. Predatory lenders would swoop in. Neighbors might move the boundary stones on her land. They knew she couldn't fight back.
Because to fight back, you need the legal system. And in a corrupt system, how do you get a verdict?
You need leverage. In the Roman or Herodian systems of that day, justice ran on two things: influence or money.
Right.
You either needed a patron, someone powerful who could whisper in the judge's ear, "Hey, help her out, she's my cousin," or you needed a bribe, a bag of silver to grease the palm.
And she has neither.
She has zero leverage. She has no husband. She has no patron. She has no money. By all accounts, she's invisible. She's a non-entity to this judge. He looks at her and sees nothing of value.
But, and this is the turn, she refuses to be invisible.
That is the hero moment. She has one weapon left. She doesn't have a sword. She doesn't have gold. She has her voice.
And this incredible persistence.
She has this dogged, stubborn refusal to accept the silence.
I love how the text portrays her. She isn't just sitting there weeping. She is active. She keeps coming. And her request is very specific. She says, "Grant me justice against my adversary."
That's a key distinction. She isn't asking for a handout. She isn't begging for alms. She is asking for a verdict.
Yes, grant me justice.
That implies she is in the right. Someone is hurting her adversary, and she knows the law's on her side. She just needs the person in power to enforce it.
Grant me justice. It's not a request for charity. It's a demand for what is right. And the judge ignores her.
For a while.
For a while. But then we get this incredible glimpse into the judge's mind. Jesus lets us hear his internal monologue. And this is where the story gets really human and really gritty. He doesn't have a spiritual awakening, does he?
Not even close. There is no Grinch's heart growing 3 sizes moment here. He remains a scoundrel to the end. He says to himself, even though I don't fear God or care what people think, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will see that she gets justice.
He does the right thing for the wrong reason.
Purely selfish reasons. He just wants the noise to stop.
Yeah.
But there is a fascinating detail in the Greek text here that we really need to dig into.
Okay.
The translation usually says something like, so that she won't eventually come and attack me or wear me out.
Right. Wear me out is the standard phrase. It sounds like she's just annoying him, like a dripping faucet.
It is annoying, but the word is stronger than that. The Greek word Luke uses is kopopiazo.
Chipopiazu.
Yes. It's a term from the world of boxing.
Boxing.
Yes. Literally, it means to strike under the eye, to give someone a black eye.
Wait, so is the judge afraid this little old lady is going to jump over the bench and punch him in the face?
It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it adds a touch of humor to the story. This powerful man is terrified of this fragile woman. But most scholars think it's a metaphor for shame.
Oh, okay.
In that culture, your public face was everything. Even though he says he doesn't care what people think, there is a limit. He is afraid she's going to blacken his face, metaphorically.
So she's going to bruise his reputation just by being there.
Exactly. He's afraid she is going to shame him so badly in his own court, simply by her screaming persistence, that he won't be able to function. It's the visceral punch of her presence. She is making his life miserable.
So he calculates the cost of justice versus cost of being pestered.
And he decides it's cheaper to just give her what she wants.
It's cold calculation, but it works. She gets her justice.
She gets her justice.
Now, this brings us to the most dangerous part of the parable, the part where we can really get the theology wrong if we aren't careful. We have the plot, widow pestered, judge caved.
Right.
And the natural inclination is to say, okay, God is the judge, I am the widow, so if I want God to answer my prayer, I need to annoy him until he gives in.
The squeaky wheel theology.
Exactly. God is reluctant. He doesn't really want to help me. But if I say the prayer 500 times, eventually, he'll get tired of hearing me and throw a blessing at me just to get me to shut up.
That is a tragedy of interpretation. If you walk away with that, you have missed the heart of God completely, and you've exhausted yourself for no reason.
So how do we fix that? Because the parallel is there.
The parallel is there, but the argument is different. In rabbinic teaching, there is a method called qual wahomer. It means light and heavy, or as we call it, the argument from lesser to greater.
Lesser to greater.
Yes. The logic isn't God is like the judge. The logic is contrast. It's an argument of contrast. Jesus is saying, look at this man. Look at this callous, unjust, selfish human official. He has zero love for the widow. He has zero love for justice. And even the worst judge imaginable, can be moved by persistence.
So if a bad judge can be moved by annoyance,
how much more will a righteous father answer the children he loves?
that flips the whole thing.
It changes everything. We aren't shouting at a closed door. We aren't trying to twist the arm of a reluctant deity. We are appealing to a father who is already inclined to hear us.
Right.
The judge acted to stop the annoyance. God acts to display his name and keep his promises.
That is such a relief. It takes the frantic energy out of prayer. I'm not trying to wake God up.
No. You are leveraging his character. And notice the term Jesus uses for the believers in the explanation. He calls them his chosen ones.
Chosen ones. That implies a relationship.
It implies covenant. The widow was a stranger to the judge. She was a nuisance. But we are chosen. We are family. We are bound to him by blood and promise. He wants to answer.
But, and here's the but that the listener is probably shouting at their radio right now.
The but. Yeah.
But there's a delay. You say God wants to answer. You say he isn't reluctant. But verse 7 asks, will he keep putting them off? And verse 8 says, he will see that they get justice quickly.
And that is the hardest word in the parable. Quickly.
It feels almost mocking, doesn't it? If you've been praying for a wandering child for 10 years or for a healing that hasn't come, quickly is the last word you would use to describe God's timeline.
It's painful. We have to be honest about that pain. But we also have to look at the Greek word used there. The word is antache.
Antache.
It can mean soon in terms of time, but it often carries the nuance of suddenly or decisively or with speed.
What's the difference?
Well, think of it like a dam breaking. You stare at the dam for years. Nothing happens. It looks static. That's the delay. But the pressure is building. And when the break happens, when the water comes, it happens quickly. It happens all at once.
So it's not about the duration of the wait, it's about the nature of the action when it comes.
Exactly. Or think about the days of Noah again. How long did Noah build that ark? Decades, maybe a century. The waiting was excruciatingly long.
Unimaginably long.
But when the rain started, when the fountains of the deep burst open, it was sudden. It was decisive.
So the promise isn't that the answer comes 5 minutes from now. The promise is that God will not drag his feet forever. He has an appointed time.
Right. Habakkuk 2.3 says, for the revelation awaits an appointed time. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. From God's perspective, the timing is perfect. From our perspective, it feels like a delay. But when he moves with speed.
That requires a very tough kind of trust. To believe in the suddenly when you're living in the not yet.
It does. And that brings us to the question Jesus asked at the very end. This is the sentence that haunts me.
Verse 8.
Verse 8. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth?
It stops you in your tracks. Jesus just promised that God will answer. He just promised justice. But then he turns the camera around and asks, but will you be there?
He's not questioning God's faithfulness.
Yeah.
God is the constant. He is questioning our endurance.
Our faithfulness.
Exactly. He knows the timeline is going to be long. He knows the days of Noah are going to lull people to sleep. He knows the pressure will be immense. So he asks, when I finally arrive with the answer, will anyone be left watching? Or will you all have given up?
You know, we often define faith as a feeling, like, I really feel close to God today. But here, Jesus seems to be defining faith as something else.
Here, faith is simply not fainting. It's the faith, the settled trust that keeps showing up at the courtroom day after day, year after year. It's loyalty. It's the refusal to drift away.
A drift is the real enemy.
It is. It's rarely a blowout.
Yeah.
Most people don't lose their faith in one catastrophic explosion. They just drift.
It's slow.
It's a slow fade. They get tired, the silence goes on too long, and they just stop knocking. Jesus is asking, will I find the kind of people who kept knocking?
I want to pivot here to the prophetic context. We mentioned the days of Noah, but there's a deeper layer here regarding who this widow represents in the grand scheme of things.
Yes. So if we zoom out, this parable isn't just about individual prayer. It has a corporate prophetic meaning.
Tell us about the remnant.
The concept of the remnant runs through the entire Bible. It's the idea that no matter how bad things get, no matter how corrupt the nation becomes, God always preserves a faithful minority, a group that refuses to bow the knee to Baal.
The faithful few.
The faithful few. In the end times context, what Jesus is alluding to with the Son of Man coming, the widow represents that remnant. Specifically, many theologians see a picture here of faithful Israel in the tribulation.
Let's break that down for someone who might not know the term tribulation.
The tribulation is the prophesied period of intense trouble at the end of the age. It's a time when the world systems, political, economic, religious, turn violently against God's people. The book of Revelation describes a beast system that dominates the earth.
And in that system, the believer has no leverage.
Zero, just like the widow. In the tribulation, if you don't take the mark of the beast, you can't buy or sell. You have no economic standing. You have no legal protection. You are the ultimate outsider.
You are the widow, no husband, no money, no patron.
And you have an adversary. In Revelation 12, Satan is described as the accuser, the dragon who pursues the woman. So in that future day, the prayer, grant me justice against my adversary, isn't a metaphor. It is the literal cry of the martyrs and the faithful remnant.
That cry from Revelation.
Yes. How long, O Lord, true and holy, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood? That's Revelation 6.10. That is the widow's prayer on a global scale.
That connects the dots. The widow is the prototype for the remnant.
She is the model. She shows us what it looks like to live in enemy territory with no earthly power, and yet to win the war simply by appealing to heaven. She bypasses the corrupt system and goes straight to the Supreme Court of the universe.
And for us, living today, even if we aren't in the Great Tribulation yet, we are in the church age, we are in the time of waiting.
We are. We live in the tension, the now and not yet. We have the promise, but we don't see the fulfillment yet. So we are invited into the widow's spirituality. We have to learn her way of praying.
So how do we do that? I want to move to the practical application. We've done the theology, we've looked at the Greek, we've looked at the prophecy, but what does this look like on Tuesday morning when the alarm goes off and the problems are still there?
The source material gives us some powerful lessons here. I think the most important pivot is how we define prayer itself.
Tether prayer to justice.
Yes, that is the phrase. Tether prayer to justice.
Unpack that, because often my prayers are about comfort. Lord, heal my back. Lord, pay this bill. Lord, keep us safe.
And God cares about those things. He is a father. Of course he does. But the widow's prayer was deeper. She wasn't asking for a softer pillow. She was asking for the world to be put right. Grant me justice.
It's a kingdom prayer.
It is. It's your kingdom come, your will be done. When we pray for justice, we are asking God to break the arm of the wicked. We are asking him to stop the sex traffickers. We are asking him to expose the corrupt leaders. We are asking him to vindicate the persecuted church.
That puts some steel in your spine.
It does. It moves prayer from being a self-help mechanism to being an act of spiritual warfare.
Right.
When you pray for justice, you are aligning yourself with God's ultimate purpose. And the essay makes a great point. Prayer for justice fuels mercy.
How so?
If you are on your knees pleading for the oppressed, you are going to be changed. You can't pray for the widow and the orphan for an hour and then walk past them on the street with a cold heart. The prayer shapes the prayer.
Right.
It makes us more like the judge. We want God to be defenders of the weak.
That's beautiful. It connects our interior life with our exterior action. They can't be separated.
Okay.
Another practical lesson is simply realism about the delay. We need to stop being surprised that it's taking a long time.
We are so addicted to instant gratification. We click a button, the package arrives tomorrow. We text, we get a reply in seconds. But spiritual work is agricultural. It's slow.
Agricultural, I like that.
James 5 compares it to a farmer waiting for the autumn and spring rains.
You can't scream at a cornstalk to make it grow faster.
You can't. You have to wait well. And that is an active waiting. It's not passivity. It's watering, weeding, watching the sky. And the essay reminds us of Gethsemane.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus himself knows what it is to wait.
Mm-hmm.
He prayed, "Let this cup pass." And he had to wait through the silence. He had to endure the cross before he got the resurrection.
So when we are waiting, we are in good company. We are suffering with him.
He is the ultimate persistent sufferer. He's close to the brokenhearted because he
Ah.
has been there. He gets it.
And then there's the lesson of watchfulness. This goes back to, will he find faith? What does faith look like while we wait?
It looks like work. It looks like the servants in other parables who were given talents and told, "Occupy until I come."
Occupy. Do business.
Right. We don't sit on the roof in white robes waiting for the helicopter. We plant gardens. We raise children. We build businesses. We visit prisons. We fight for justice in our courts. We do the work of the kingdom while we pray for the king to come.
It's a dual focus. One eye on the clouds, one eye on the plow.
Exactly. Jeremiah 29. Seek the peace of the city, for in its peace you will find your peace. We work for the good of the world, even as we know only God can ultimately save it.
I love the metaphor the essay uses at the end. It says, this parable is not a riddle to solve, it is a rope to hold.
That's the image to take home. Imagine you are in the ocean. The waves are high. It's dark. You are tired of treading water. You feel like you're going to sink.
And you feel alone.
Utterly alone. And Jesus throws you a rope.
And the rope is this story.
The rope is the promise. I am coming. Justice is coming. Don't let go.
You don't have to pull yourself up the rope. You just have to hold on.
Just hold on. Persistence isn't about being strong enough to force God's hand. It's about being weak enough to just cling to the promise and refuse to let go until the answer comes.
And sometimes the only prayer you can manage is the widow's prayer.
Grant me justice against my adversary.
Whether that adversary is a person or a sickness or an addiction or the accuser himself.
Bring it to the judge. Bring that one line. He is not like the man in the story. He's your father. He is listening, and he will act.
I want to close our time today by going back to the text. We've analyzed it, we've taken it apart, but I want to just let the scripture wash over you. I'm going to read Luke 18, verses 7 and 8 slowly, and I want you to imagine Jesus looking you in the eye as he says this. And will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Will he keep putting them off? I tell you, he will see that they get justice, and quickly. Listener, wherever you are, in the car, in the kitchen, in the hospital room, may you grab hold of the rope. May you find the strength to pray one more time. May you know that your Father hears you, that he loves you, and that he is on his way.
Don't faint. Keep knocking.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.